People think the Appalachian Mountains are quiet. They're not. They're patient. I learned that one October night in the deep woods of western Virginia, far enough from the parkway that the road noise vanished, far enough from town that no one would hear you if you screamed. The kind of place where the forest presses in close, rhododendron choking the trails, trees so old they seem to lean together when the sun goes down. I went alone. That was my first mistake. I'd grown up hearing stories, whispers really, about things in the mountains. Old miners talked about voices calling from the dark. Hikers mentioned footsteps that never showed themselves. But I chalked it up to nerves and folklore. I wanted solitude, silence, a fire, a tent, and a night under the stars. By the time I finished setting up camp, the sun was already bleeding out behind the ridgeline. The woods changed instantly. Sounds dulled, shadows stretched, the air thickened like the forest was holding its breath. I lit my campfire and felt better immediately. Fire does that. It draws a line in the dark and tells everything on the other side to stay there. I cooked, ate, and listened to the normal night sounds. Crickets, wind, an owl somewhere far off. Then I noticed something strange. Every time I shifted my weight or snapped a twig, the forest went quiet. Not gradually, instantly, as if something was listening. I told myself it was nothing, predators pausing, natural stuff. Still, I kept my voice low when I spoke out loud, even though no one was there. That's when I heard it. A footstep. Not close, not far, somewhere just beyond the firelight. I froze, staring into the trees. The fire crackled, throwing shadows that bent the trunks into long, twisted shapes. I waited for another sound. Nothing. I laughed nervously and poked the fire, the sound loud in the sudden silence. Then the silence answered back. Another step. Closer. I stood and swept my flashlight across the tree line. Nothing but leaves, fog, and branches layered so thick it felt like looking into a wall. Still, that pressure, the unmistakable feeling of being watched, wrapped around my spine. Probably a deer, I muttered. The woods went silent again. Not even insects. That's when I realized something horrifying. Whatever was out there, it only moved when I made noise. I stopped breathing. Minutes passed. My chest burned. My ears rang. I could hear my heartbeat loud and wet in my skull. Then, a soft sound. Not a step. A copy of my breath. Right outside the firelight. I bolted for my tent, zipped it shut, and killed my flashlight. The darkness inside was absolute. I lay there, staring at the thin fabric between me and the forest, listening. Slow, deliberate, footsteps circling the camp, each step timed perfectly with the pop of the fire, the rustle of leaves, always masked, always hidden. I covered my mouth with both hands. Then it stopped. Something pressed against the side of the tent. Not a paw, not a hand, just pressure. Long, even, like a body leaning in to listen. A whisper slid along the nylon. It wasn't words. It was me. My breathing, my nervous swallow, my tiny terrified sounds, played back in wet, distorted echoes. I don't remember screaming. I remember waking up in daylight, the tent unzipped, the fire cold. My gear was untouched, no tracks, no signs of anything around my camp. Except one thing. In the dirt, inches from where my head had been sleeping, was a single, deep impression. Not a footprint. Too long, too narrow, like something had stood there all night, listening. And here's the worst part. Ever since that night, Sometimes when I'm alone and the room is quiet, when I shift or breathe too loud, I hear the forest answer back, right behind me. If you're listening to this alone, take a moment, turn off the lights, and listen. Because if you've ever felt watched in the dark, you already know some things don't follow you home. They wait for you to notice them. If this story stayed with you, leave a like. If you've ever heard something you couldn't explain, leave a comment. And if you don't want to be alone in the dark next time, subscribe. I'll be back with another story soon. Just remember, the woods don't need your attention to be listening.